You're listening to Sports Connections with David Smale, the show that brings you a fun and intimate look into connections throughout sports. Now here's your host, David Smale.
Joanne McCallie was the first Division I head coach to win a conference title in 4 different conferences and the first Division I coach to be named Conference Coach of the Year in 4 different conferences. She was only the second Division I head coach to lead 2 different programs to 30-win seasons and also to lead 2 different programs to a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, Michigan State and Duke. She has 3 national championship game appearances in her career, 1 as a head coach and 2 as an assistant. And she has been named Conference Coach of the Year 5 different times. She also was an outstanding player. In 1983, she became the first player ever from the state of Maine to be named to Parade Magazine's annual All-America High School Girls Basketball Team. She was inducted into the Maine Sports Legends Hall of Honors in 2005. That's quite a mouthful. And she's written a book. The Secret Warrior is a compelling memoir that weaves the story of mental health through the realities and challenges within sports and in regard to student athletes, and all affected by this mood disorder that can be debilitating in many cases. And it's motivational and heartfelt while driving home the need for more education. Quite a resume there, Coach. Welcome to Sports Connections.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
So how did you get involved in athletics? We'll start with the sports side of things.
Just like any younger person trying to find my way, really in 5th grade, I was exposed a little bit to basketball, but it was really my time in Maine, my 6th grade year, where I really got excited about all sports, particularly basketball. And I tried to play many sports throughout my career, which I think is really a healthy thing to do.
Yeah.
Be a multi-sport athlete. So soccer, softball, track, basketball. I was very fortunate. It was a wonderful upbringing in Brunswick, Maine.
Now, was basketball your best sport, or was it the one with the best opportunity to play at the next level?
It was my best sport. I had a natural proclivity, I guess, for the sport. Not sure why. No one played it in my family.
Okay.
But I enjoyed it, yeah.
Okay. Siblings? Did you have brothers and sisters that you played with?
Well, my brother played football and hockey, took a different route. And
Okay.
my younger sister was pretty much almost 4.5 years younger. So I learned it with my friends, and I had some great coaches as well.
Okay. Now, did you always know that you wanted to be a coach, or is that something that came about when you were through playing?
Oh, I'm definitely a coach by accident. I thought, you go to college and you say goodbye to your sport and you pursue, I don't know, a law school or something of that nature. But I came back to it pretty quickly after working in outside sales down in Chicago, downtown Chicago. And I realized I really loved the whole cadence of the schedule and being in a university environment and got used to the coaching demands and also how you had to lead as a person and improve every day. So it was by accident, but a great accident.
It's interesting. I talk to a lot of people in sports who become coaches, and it's because they miss the sport part of it, or they miss the camaraderie with their teammates. And the best way to stay in that is to become a coach. In some cases, you're going to be coaching former teammates, but still being involved in the sport part of it with the people. And you're talking about the schedule and just the atmosphere. Do you think that's different from what I was saying?
Well, I just think it's a special lifestyle.
Yeah.
You work by objectives 24/7, but you have the cadence of a university calendar, and you work weekends and holidays and all these types of things. But it's a business of developing people. To me, it's not really a business.
Right.
And so it's very fulfilling. And
we talked about your background as a player. You specialized in assists. So in a sense, that's a natural transition. You're assisting other players, younger players, to get better in their sport. You see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a fun assist. It's a lot of time and getting to know people and sharing relationships. And that's really the most powerful thing about coaching.
What type of obstacles did you face in growing your coaching career? First of all, did you have any? If so, what type?
For the most part, I've been very fortunate. I got a graduate assistant position at Auburn, and I was very well supported there with a terrific mentor in Joe Champy. And I wasn't afraid to learn. I didn't know a lot about coaching coming out of Northwestern. I knew about playing. That's very, very different how you teach the game. So I just was very fortunate to have good people and opportunities, and not afraid to leave downtown Chicago for the rural nature of Auburn, Alabama. I've really been motivated by people all my life, and I think that's really important when evaluating opportunities, because I learned from a Final Four coach. I learned at the highest level, and that was great.
For sure. Growing up in Maine, you weren't surrounded by skyscrapers either. So maybe it was a little easier to transition back rather than experiencing it for the first time. If you'd grown up in Chicago and then played at Northwestern, that might have been a little tougher.
Yeah, without question, I think. But still, going to the Deep South, that's an adjustment for a city girl or even from a New Englander.
Yes.
So
it's
all good.
Did you have to lose your New England accent to get accepted down there?
Yeah, I'm not sure what accent I have now. I'm not sure.
Talk about some of your accomplishments. I read through a few of them in the introduction. Conference Coach of the Year in 4 different conferences, a total of 5 different times, 2 different teams to 30-win seasons and number 1 seeds. Which of those accomplishments stand out the most?
Well, I just love the fact that me, my family, the teams and staffs that I coached, I was able to go from Maine to Michigan State to Duke and have a level of success, and consistency. I think that's a joyful feeling to be able to consistently be impacting lives, and championships represent that. Many things do, off-court relationships and everything else. So I just feel very good about consistency. And, it's nice to stay in one place for a whole career. I know many coaches have done that. My pathway was different. It was a different path, and one that me and my family have enjoyed immensely and are very grateful for.
Now, a lot of coaches will say this, and it sounds like you're going to agree with this, that the championships are the result, not the goal.
Yes, I definitely believe in process coaching for sure. It's an everyday process of getting better, and not having a scoreboard mentality as much as having an everyday love of process. And I think that's really what you have when you have great competition, and then of course a lot of championships and fun stuff can follow.
Yeah, I got to know Coach Wooden late in his life, and he often talked about the fact that he never scouted the opponent. He always saw. Now, he had amazing talent at his disposal, but even when he wasn't winning national championships early in his career, he always scouted his own team, try and make them better, and didn't worry about what the opponent did. And Bill Walton's a friend of mine. He said, the coach used to say, if we play up to our ability, we don't have to worry about what the opponent's doing because we're good enough to do that. Is that kind of what you're talking about with process coaching, where you're trying to teach your players to get better themselves and not worry about what the opponent does well?
I think so. I mean, staying in the moment of each day and the betterment, always wanting better. So whether you win or lose, you're still learning a significant amount from each competition. I will say I did scout opponents.
Yeah, I don't think very many people can get away with not.
Yeah, I'm not sure people can get away with that. But I do think that, a process is constantly what you're thinking about. You're thinking about being successful or, kind of dangerous on the court as a competitor. You're thinking about how you present yourself and opportunities. You're not thinking about how many points you score.
Right.
You're thinking about how you add to the whole and how good can you be, and how good do you want to be. So it's definitely a way to think about coaching: immediacy, intensity, intelligence. There are component parts that you consider and think about greatly and share with your team and evaluate that are not really statistical.
Yeah. And I think maybe a way to take Coach Wooden's approach and assign it to normal people that do have to scout opponents is you're scouting not necessarily to worry about what they can do to take you out of your game, but to find out their weaknesses to accentuate your strengths.
Yes.
You think that's a fair way of doing it?
Yep. Okay. Yep. Always maximizing your strengths. Exactly.
Okay. One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, Coach, was your advocacy of these different programs and different causes. One of the benefits of being a successful coach is the platform that goes with it. I'd like to talk to you about the two different causes that we mentioned, and if you have others, great, we can add those as well. But how did you get involved with the two causes? Let's start with the melanoma. How did that become an issue? Not an issue, but a cause for you.
Well, I recruited a young woman, Faith Suggs, and her family, and she had lost her mother to melanoma.
Okay.
At a tender age of 12 years old, 13 at that stage. And she had shared her story, and that was obviously very profound in the recruitment process. So we wanted to honor that story. I've had my own situations with melanoma and cancer and all that type of thing, but I think you're always looking for the student athlete and how you can impact. And Faith has now gone to be a board member of Polka Dot Mama Foundation for advancement of finding a cure for melanoma and all cancer, and I'm very proud of her for that. So that really pulled in that direction, and Faith was an amazing player for me at Duke.
And it sounds like that was something that may have been the impetus for getting the program started, but even after she left, you kept it going because it was important to you.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I was on the board of Polka Dot Mama, and Tracy Callahan and her folks do such a great job. We have wonderful a gala each year, and just trying to let people know because many, many young people are the victims. It's an insidious disease, and it can come back. And so awareness is very important.
And then the idea of mental health. I love the fact that your game at Duke was mental wealth, the mental wealth game. Talk about how that came about.
Well, I was in the church. One of my teammates at Northwestern, her daughter, Courtney, took her life. And I was a part of being in that church. And I will never forget the feeling that I felt and observed in that church. And at that time, I thought to myself, my gosh, Joanne, if this isn't, slapping you right in the face to try to do something, I don't know what is. I had my own mental health journey, but that was for another day. This whole piece of mental health and young people, the suicides, not understanding that these emotions are temporary and they can be changed. And, the heartbreak of any of that, it was just so extraordinary. I wanted to do something. And so the mental wealth game came out of that experience as we honored Courtney's parents and her family, and then had that while I was at Duke. And that was just a really a small step, but a big step. And even getting Kyrie Irving shoes to support our women to wear the mental health colors of green, and mix those with Duke blue. So it was a special time and great events for the community.
And were you there with Elena Beard, or was she before you?
She's a great player before me. Yeah.
Okay. All right. She's the only women's Duke player that I ever had a chance to meet when I was working for the NCAA. Or no, maybe it was when I was working for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I got to talk to her one time for a story we did on her. So I didn't know if you were, the times overlapped at all. Talk about some of the highlights of that advocacy. You talked about the Kyrie Irving shoes for your team. Just what are some of the things that stick out as you look back on those two different causes, having days to not celebrate, but commemorate those two different causes? What are some of the things that stick out for you?
Well, just the community involvement, whether it was having a bunch of events on the concourse relative to mental wealth and, the massage therapist or the therapy dogs or the different things that was going on, the painting, just really fun exposure items. And the same is true for melanoma, the polka dots, and just everyone being a part of that. I think anytime you can reach a community and have it be more than just a sport, I think that's a special thing. And that was accomplished with those games.
Have you heard back from anybody, whether it was somebody on your team that you didn't realize had, maybe it was the grandparent of one of your players that you didn't realize was suffering with melanoma, or hear back from somebody in the community that was impacted, maybe they came to the game and recognized that their child was going through this? You know what I'm saying? Do you have any feedback that you weren't expecting that basically lifts your spirits of the fact that, yeah, you got something done there?
Well, I think you do all the time. People come back with stories, and again, connection is a wonderful thing, and we're better off together. We're better off connected. And there were certainly people that have spoken to me about it, some more personally than others. But it's always it's a good feeling, and it's also great to teach young people how their sport can. Sports are certainly a metaphor for life, and how they can impact, especially on a big stage like at Duke.
Yeah, and it also provides that platform that we were talking about earlier, that maybe if they were at pick a Division III school in the area, they might not have had that platform that they had at Duke or at Michigan State or places like that. What inspired you to write your book?
Long time coming. Always wanted to write it. Not sure of the timing of when to write it. I was 39 when we competed in that national championship, and I thought maybe after that it would be a good time to write it, because we had a platform on a national stage, and it might be a good story to share. But I wanted to coach further, and I could not fathom announcing that and handling all that as a distraction to what I was trying to do with coaching. So continued to coach and really experience that with my family and my teams. And but the time came, where it was time to step away from coaching after 28 years and 28 great years, and take a look at this secret warrior life and write the book and share it and kind of follow this path and this journey and see where it goes. So
the book's brand new then. It's not something that was 5 years ago. It's a fairly new project.
Yeah, I completed it on August 5th, and then there was lots of good editing and things like that. So it's been kind of a whirlwind, less than a year to publish a book. February 16th is my mom's birthday, and it's official February 16th, the publication. It's out on pre-order right now with Amazon, so people can go out there and pre-order. And I think it can be very helpful to lots of ages, all backgrounds. Mental health does not discriminate. That's for sure.
Right. And the I've written enough books to know that, yeah, it's great to have it on Amazon because people who don't have contact with you can find it there. But I also know that if you have a website or if you have a place to sell it yourself, you're going to make a lot more money. So do you have a website or some place where you would prefer people go to rather than, and I have nothing against Amazon, but as an author, as a fellow author, do you have a place where people can go and order it, maybe get an autographed copy, anything like that?
Well, actually, it's Amazon.
Okay.
It's pretty much going through that. John Kohler Books, coming out of Virginia Beach, Virginia, is my wonderful publisher. But everything is funneling out of Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and that's the way it works, right? You got the royalty thing and all that jazz. And I just hope to be able to develop and build a foundation for mental health, and see how this book can get the conversation going in a certain direction. Maybe alter the narrative, adjust it possibly, but stories over stigmas. I mean, it's much more important to get to the stories and get past stigmas. So that's what we're trying to do.
Okay. Talk about you mentioned in the introduction, and I got this from your author biography, the fact that faith over fear is a prevalent theme throughout the book. Just describe what that is and talk about how that applies to your book.
Well, I think it's an important theme for everyone, regardless of your personal faith. And my faith journey actually happened later in life. And so I chronicled that in the book a little bit, in terms of how faith becomes very important to me at a later age. So I think we all have our stories, and faith is a very personal thing. But when you can really invest in it, and really believe in the possibilities, and just believe in God and a higher power, and the way that your life can have a path of direction, and that if you can just do the right things and follow that path, I think it's so important. So for me, I've been following a path without question, but faith became a larger role in my life with my student athletes, as well as myself personally, and that's definitely had an impact. So it all comes together, but I think faith over fear is a good way to think.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've led a lot of Bible studies, and I say, just like you can't have light and darkness at the same time, You can't have hot and cold. You can have degrees of hot and cold, but you can't have pure cold, pure heat. You can't have pure light, pure darkness at the same time. You can't have faith and fear at the same time. If you have faith in a higher power, and we share that faith, you can't be fearful at the same time. You have to choose one or the other. And I like the idea of choosing faith. It's a choice. It's not something that just happens. It's absolutely a choice, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. What's next for you? Are you going to get back into coaching? What's next on the horizon?
I'm very open about what's next. I'm not sure exactly. I'm going to follow this path, the secret warrior path, and see how many lives we can perhaps touch or change or grow or help or motivate, educate, any of those things. And then I'll go from there. I'm 55. I've got some coaching life left in me. But I'm right now, I feel like I'm coaching a wider audience. Mm-hmm. It's much more inclusive. It's everyone. It's every age, race, ethnicity, background. Again, mental health does not discriminate, and it's something that needs to be shared. And when people can feel like a coach understands, a lot of people like to listen to coaches, the motivational element of coaches. And I think I'm pretty, I guess, unique in the sense there haven't been too many Division I, coaches at a high level that have come out with this kind of situation. And it works for me to share it. I feel very comfortable with it. My family as well. And it just hopefully can help direct something positive and really develop a better spirit so that we can get through this pandemic time, which is of course contributed to even more, mental health issues.
Yeah, and it's not only, crosses all boundaries, but it's a secretive thing by its very nature. And by talking about it, by letting people know that it's a personal struggle for you and letting people hear the stories, not just hear a lecture, but hear the personal stories, you're going to be able to impact people. You might not hear about it. You might not know about it, mm-hmm. but they may just simply change based on what you've shared with them. So are you planning on doing public speaking in relation to the, how do people get in touch with you if you want to share that to line that up? Do you have somebody who's arranging that for you, or are you doing it all yourself?
Well, it's coming through my email because I like to see it, but I've got people that help arrange it. So it's just my Joanne McCallie @gmail.com account, and trying to be able to touch base with people. But I'm fortunate to have people supporting me and guiding me and kind of directing me to things. But I definitely see that in my future for sure.
So if someone wants to hear you speak, see you speak, and they're hosting an event and they think it would be great to have a successful Division I coach, they can simply email you and try and set that up.
Yes.
Okay, and it's Joanne McCallie @gmail.com.
Yep, Joanne McCallie @gmail.com.
McCallie, I'm sorry, I've been pronouncing it incorrectly the whole time.
It's okay, everybody does that.
Yeah, I get that too. You can imagine how many different ways they pronounce Smale. I always like to give people two final questions. One is to give you the opportunity to talk about family. You've mentioned your family. Just talk about, each one of them and what they mean to you.
Well, obviously my husband, we're heading into 30 years coming up here in August. So it's been pretty remarkable. I talk a lot about partnerships and what those mean, especially when there's mental health issues and adversity. So John has been uniquely talented in his ability to be a great father and just a great partner in dealing with so many issues. He's a chemist by trade, PhD in economics, went to Carolina. That's always kind of interesting story.
I was going to ask about that when you got through, but did you have some knockdown dragouts over the Duke Carolina rivalry? But we'll let that go.
You knew what color to wear. You knew what color. And my children are wonderful, Maddie and Jack. They're older now and into their lives and just doing great things. Both of them have played basketball in their careers and love sports. Jack's a computer science, and he's really into lots of things with the computer and computer games and all that stuff. And Maddie's got her MBA and is pursuing, that field and marketing and recruiting and doing all sorts of good things. So, and we've got a dog too, right?
No grandkids yet.
Yeah, no grandkids yet. No, we'll be ready, but we're not ready yet.
Yeah, I hear you. I've got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old granddaughter, and I'll tell you what, Coach. you can be having the worst day imaginable, and those little girls come in the front door, and the world is perfect. I'll tell you what. You look forward to it. It is awesome. The final question I've got for you, and again, I like to give people the opportunity to do this. You've done so much in your life. You've accomplished so much, from playing to coaching to advocating these important causes. What is your legacy?
Legacy, that's a big word. I think your legacy is a continual daily thing in terms of what you bring energetically and faithfully to people. So I think it's that. And I also think it's something that you share with everyone around you and with your family, especially. I hope that my husband and I, with our foundation that we start, we'll leave a legacy there to be shared by our children, and to examine what are some of the best ways to invest in mental health and ridding us of mental health impairment, and improving medications and improving quality of life with people. So I hope that I've been able to affect people in their quality of life, whether it be coaching them and challenging them, or whether it be people now with this mental health advocacy. But legacy is something you can do every day. And it can be a big, scary word, or it can be a continuum of a lot of efforts and action.
All right. Well, good way to wrap up, Coach. I appreciate your time. It's a pleasure to meet you, and look forward to maybe crossing paths with you at some point.
Thank you. And will you send a copy of this to us? Like, will you send the?
Yes.
We always appreciate that, and I really appreciate the opportunity. So look for Secret Warrior, get a few copies.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for listening to Sports Connections with David Smale. Make sure to subscribe, follow, and rate the show from your favorite podcast platform. You can learn more about David Smale and his work by visiting davidsmalebooks.com. Don't forget to join us weekly for new episodes. Until next time.